Thank you all. Apologies, please.
Just Councillor Gwynfor Owen this morning.
Okay, talking about. Okay, no one else.
Can I just come in on that, please, Mr. Chairman? I have to leave at 11 o'clock. I've got another meeting.
Okay, talking about. Thank you. Thanks for making us aware. Any others, please? Okay, we're okay. Item 2. Would anyone like to declare an interest for today's agenda items for this meeting, please? Okay, I think we're all quiet. Everyone happy? Okay. Okay. Item 3, notice of urgent matters. I have none. And I'll go straight on to item 4, minutes of the meeting held the 17th of March 2025. I assume you've all read them, but I'll go through pages 1 to 8. First, for accuracy, please. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, are we all happy with the accuracy? If we are, can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Jones, Jochen, thank you. And a seconder, please. Okay.
Councillor Brynmore Hughes has indicated, Chair.
All right, Jochen, thank you. Thank you, Gareth. And any matters arising from those minutes, please? And again, I'll go from 1 to 8, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Any matters arising from those minutes, please? Okay, we all seem happy, so I will move on to item 6. Head of Internal Audit for the opinion of the annual report 24/25. And Harad, I believe you're taking us through this, please.
You're on mute, Harad.
No, I don't think we can hear you, sorry.
Sorry, Chair, just while Angharad's sorting that out, the translator's logged in, so if anybody needs translation, if you select your English channel.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Dim problem. Thanks for attending, Jochen. Thank you. Okay, I don't know if is it your headphones or you want to log back out and in again?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. We can hear you now. Sorry about that. So,
wouldn't you? So first one for me is the head of internal audit opinion for 24/25. So I'll just take you through the document if that's okay. Section 1 details the overall opinion for the year, which is substantial assurance overall that there is a good system of internal control in place designed to meet the organisation's objectives and that controls are generally being applied consistently. Section 2 details the roles and responsibilities for the head of internal audit opinion. Section 3 sets out the basis of the opinion, how we've derived at the opinion, which is essentially made of 3 elements. So the work on the assurance framework and the work around risk management, the core and risk-based reviews that we've issued during the year, and our work on follow-up. Section 4 sets out the internal audit coverage and outputs during the year. This section also sets out our support and guidance provided in the year, as well as the additional areas where we've provided added value contributions during the year as well. Section 5 sets out the areas for consideration for your annual governance statement. Section 6 sets out how we ensure quality and compliance with our professional standards and accreditation. So happy to take any questions. Mwyn hapus I cymryd unrhyw cwestiwn. Diolch yn fawr. I'm sorry about that.
No, diolch yn fawr, thank you. Thank you. So a good report. These been overall very good, but there is some issues raised, particularly on item 1, risk training 2, and the finance on item 3. So any questions off members, please, Jock and Val. Okay, I'll just start with one. So obviously you've raised some risks. Do we feel that we have a plan to deliver the improvements in them areas? Are you happy, Anharad, with the responses to your issues you've raised, which shows the process is working? But obviously you've had chats since then, and I suppose as members we just need that clarity that them chats have happened and you're happy that they will deliver the plan of recovery.
Yeah, so overall it's substantial level of assurance. There is a few things for the organisation to take forward. I'll take you through those in a minute as part of the progress report. But overall, substantial assurance, very good news. So I'd just like to echo everybody's help and support during the course of the year. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, Jock and Val, thank you. Okay. Any questions, members? Can't see any hands up. Okay, would officers like to just respond to the points raised about, obviously good piece of work, but some issues were raised. I don't know if Helen or Elgin wish just to come in just to touch on that, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think in overall terms, substantial assurance is a really positive achievement. At a personal level, I'd like to thank Anharad and the team, both in terms of the planning for their internal audit coverage and the way that work is discharged. Generally speaking, all of the recommendations are accepted, and I hope you get assurance from the next piece that we do work through those. I think in particular, where there are issues, it's about working collaboratively to progress them. And I know certainly in the next matter that we've a job of work to do in relation to the risk management. So really positive in terms of those internal controls relating to finance, but nothing further to add other than that, really.
Okay, Jock and Val, thank you. And you're right, overall report's excellent, and the fact that issues have been picked up means the process is working, and the plan to improve them areas seems to be in place, and we've heard from officers. So the recommendation is to note the content of this report, and can we all just show hands if you're happy to note in favour of that, please? No one strongly against or abstentions, I believe. Okay, Jock and Val, thank you for that. Really good report to read. So I will now move on to item 7, Internal Audit Progress Report, June 2025. Jock and Val.
Okay, so this covers the work undertaken between the 1st of March to the 31st of May. So since the last audit committee, we've issued one report in relation to risk management, which we just mentioned before. So overall, this resulted in a limited level of assurance. So there is a formal risk management strategy for the service, which is in the process of being drafted. When we undertook the review, we found that the risk register had not been consistently completed for risks across the strategic and operational risk registers. Progress updates had not been consistently recorded. Risk management training needs should be clearly defined and identified for all staff, and in addition, documentation should be enhanced to evidence discussion, challenge and scrutiny and debate of those risks, at the strategic risk management, and any issues should be escalated to the senior leadership team. In relation to 25-26 reviews, the equipment asset management review and the National Fraud Initiative are in field work, and we will attend the business scrutiny meetings, budget scrutiny meetings when required. It's also been requested by the Assistant Chief Fire Officer that the timing of the business planning review be changed to Q2 and the equipment asset management review be brought forward to Q1, which is currently ongoing. The progress report also covers details of our upcoming events, which are free of charge. And we have also included a summary of the current status of the previous recommendation following our follow-up reviews. So as you can see, most of the recommendations arising from the 24-25 work are not yet due. These will be followed up and an update will be provided at the following audit committees. I'd just like to highlight that the recommendations following the cyber organisational controls review undertaken in 24-25 are to be followed up again by our technology risk assurance team in Q2, and a further update will be provided at the next audit committee in September. So happy to take any further questions in relation to the follow-up work that we've done or the work that we've undertaken between that time period. Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Before I take any questions, I've recently had a meeting about our work as this committee with an audit with Welsh Audit, and I've obviously read this report, particularly this, and I do think there's further work for this committee to do on the risk. So as chair, I have chatted with officers. I don't know if Helen, you'd like to just come in just to summarise where we're at with that. So it was a good report, but when I read it, I just felt a bit uncomfortable. But after the chat with officers, I think we understand where we need to go. Helen, diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Anne Jones as the lead officer for risk management to respond on that.
Okay, okay, diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you again, Anne Harrod, for your and your team's support in us in your assessment of our risk management processes. We very much have been on a journey and progression with our risk management processes, commencing with an audit that MIAA completed in the early part of 2024. I'm pleased to say that even following this recent report, a number of the actions have already been closed. For example, our strategy has now been signed off, terms of reference have been signed off, and building on that progression and the support from Anne Harrod and the team in relation to our processes. So all of the heads of department now attend our strategic risk committee. We bring our strategic risks to the service leadership team on a quarterly basis. So whilst we had limited assurance, what we recognised were we were on a journey. We continue to work on that journey, and this report really helps us in getting that progression and getting those finals areas of best practice over the line. So it is a journey, but I'm confident we're well on our way on that journey.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. And as I say, I think when I had a chat with Helen, it was clear that we have to clarify the work of the audit committee, how it fits in with this. And I think that will put us in a better place. So I'm glad that work's happened. I will now go over to Councillor Gareth Jones. Diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Anne Harrod. You touched on there the cyber security of the organisation, and I was just wondering, in view, I think John Brynmore was saying that, you know, an organisation he's involved with has had some fun and games with a cyber attack, you know, M&S and everything. It seems to be in a heightened risk. So is it something we should consider bringing forward and do it sooner rather than later? Just look at the cyber security, or do you think we're on a par with everybody else and we are as far along the line as we could be?
Yeah, so I understand that. I think it is one of the number one risks for every organisation in terms of cybersecurity. So it should be on your strategic risk register. I think that's number one. In terms of another review, it is scheduled in for 26-27 in the plan, and that we will undertake. So we did do a deep dive of the cybersecurity organisational controls last year as part of the 24-25 plan. That was moderate assurance, and we will track those actions to make sure that they will be completed this year. and then we'll do a follow-up, a further piece of work next year, if that's okay. But obviously the current internal audit plan can be flexed to take into consideration new priorities, etc. So we can look at that, but currently that piece of work is scheduled in for next year.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether, in light of recent events, is it something as an audit committee we should be considering moving up the priority list, or are we as comfortable as we could be that we're making the progress things? Because, again, I think every organization isn't comfortable with their cybersecurity, are they? We've just got to make sure that we've done everything we possibly can, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it should be on your strategic risk register. Those issues and risks that we identified last year are being tracked through this year. We could do a further piece of work, but it probably already tell you what you already know last year. We could do, if it was decided that was an area of risk. We only have a limited number of days in the plan currently at the moment, but we could look at that. But I don't know if Helen wants to come in.
Okay, just before, I think the report's clear, but I think the committee being as sure as we can be that everything is up to date. I think it could be an agenda item, and I think that extra piece of work, my gut feeling is I agree with Gareth, we should, but I'll bring in Anthony or Helen to touch on that. But I think it's valid, and part of our job is we can see in the plan, but I think to test that a bit more, and I think that piece of work would give us all a bit of peace of mind. But happy to take on Helen first. Talking about Helen.
Thank you. I suppose it's multifaceted, really. So first and foremost, it is our top risk on the risk register, and therefore it is something that we're very alive to. Certainly, the internal audit work last time gave us a really good steer on some of the areas that we need to look at, and we are progressing through those. Outside of that, within the ICT department, we're also working towards the cyber assurance framework, which is the Welsh Government public sector to model. So there is a huge amount of work, but taking Councillor Jones' concerns, one of the things that we could do is a separate piece of work, perhaps as a training event ahead of an audit committee, or indeed ahead of a fire authority meeting, where we do a deep dive into what our arrangements are, what we consider to be the key risks, the direction that we're working on. And I am just acutely aware that it is very, very sensitive. So in some respects, it would be dealt with best outside of a committee, so that people can ask questions, and we can perhaps be more open in terms of some of the areas that we're particularly focused on. But I would wholly agree that it is something that shouldn't happen in the background. It has to be something that permeates through our day-to-day job, as it were, because it covers everything, right from maintaining your passwords right through to the phishing and emails. And I think it's one of those really scary things when you realise how many attempts, or how many attempts there are on a daily basis, not only on our systems but everybody's systems. But when it does happen, it can be catastrophic. So I guess
so before I bring Steve in, so I guess the recommendation is clear. Whether that's in a part 2 or a separate piece of training for the whole authority, officers will give that some thought. That's minuted, but you'll come back with a plan of action on that to give to help with them concerns, and so we understand where we are, I think, also.
Yeah, Steve is our head of ICT, so he's probably best placed to add to this discussion.
Okay, but you'll give it some thought and the best platform to take this further. Okay, joke about. Okay, Steve, joke about.
Hi, just to add a little to that, our focus currently is on the cyber assessment framework, as Helen quite rightly said, because that's the WLGA direction. They're pushing for all public sector to achieve this this year. That said, we are meeting with them MIAA next month to follow up on our audit, so we are seeing them this year.
Okay, and can you just give some thought on how you could update members to give peace of mind? And I suppose the plan Are we putting enough resource into this capacity? But if you can just touch base with Helen on coming up with something for members, that'd be great.
Absolutely. It will need to be quite heavily redacted because the sensitivity of our cyber controls.
It'll be part 2 or separate meeting. I'll let officers. That's understood. Anthony, did you want to come in, or is that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to add to Helen's point, this is most definitely on our strategic risk register. It is as a strategic risk, it is directly assigned to our information steering committee, and I presented the strategic risk register to the chair and the deputy chair last week in advance of executive panel this afternoon. So just to add to the conversation, that this is most definitely a known risk and one that has a lot of focus in our strategic risk planning.
Okay, but I hope you understand. I think members to be updated and want to be part of that is right way forward, I think. So, Councillor Jones, you happy with that?
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks, Mark. I'm assured, that there's nothing to be no advantage to be derived in asking Angharad's team to bring this forward or anything like that. It would just tell us what we know already. And I'm assured there's plenty of work going on in the background. We can never be complacent about it, but no organisation can be complacent about it. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think our role is to understand that more fully. So thanks for raising it. And I think we all understand how important it is, and a future piece of work has been committed to regarding this. So, Jock and Val, any more question, please? Okay. Angharad, have you got any more to add?
That's it from me. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay, and thank you. Your reports were very easy to read and very thorough. So, Jock and Val really appreciated the format and the obvious work, what's gone into it. So I'll go to the recommendation 5, and the recommendation is to note the work undertaken by MIAA during 24-25 and to note the progress made implementing the agreed recommendations. Can we just show hands? We're happy to note that, please. Okay, Jock and Val. No one against or abstentions. Okay, Jock and Val, thank you. And then Jock and Val, thank you. Okay, so I will now move to item 8, Safeguarding Annual Update 24-25. Who's just taken us through that, please? Can you just confirm, officers, please?
It's myself, Chair.
Okay, Jock and Val, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the purpose of this report is to present to members the annual safeguarding report. And in that report, it outlines our safeguarding activities undertaken by the service between the 1st of April 2024 and the 31st of March 2025. It reaffirms the service's commitment to protecting vulnerable individuals across North Wales, detailing the number and the nature of our safeguarding referrals made for both children and adults at risk. The report also highlights the proactive role of staff in identifying and responding to signs of abuse, neglect and exploitation. In 24-25, the service made 24 child and 269 adult safeguarding referrals. While child referrals declined slightly from previous years, adult referrals remain high, reflecting the service's growing role in the community of safeguarding. Denbighshire and Conway saw the highest number of referral rates for children and adults respectively. The services continues to face challenges in relation to training delivery due to qualification requirements, but mitigate these through partnership and digital learning platforms. Strategic priorities for 2025 include embedding safeguarding leads across regions, enhancing our data systems, and aligning our training with national standards. The service remains committed to continuous improvement, transparency and multi-agency collaboration. So therefore, it's recommended that members note the service's commitment to expand internal training capacity by supporting staff to achieve higher safeguarding qualifications, enhance safeguarding awareness in low referral areas, such as Wrexham and Ynys Môn, through targeted outreach and training, strengthen data collection and analysis to better monitor trends and inform strategic decisions, and implement functional safeguarding leads across all operational areas to ensure consistent practice and leadership. Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thank you very much. Really important piece of work, and I had the experience of seeing someone who was definitely struggling. They had a visit from our services with a small fire. They reported that the person was struggling and they are in supported housing, and I get regular updates. But the point being, that first interaction hadn't happened, that person wouldn't have been picked up and looked after. So really important. And I'll bring in, I've got a few questions myself, but I'll bring in Councillor Gareth Jones first, Jock about.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering, is it a really onerous process to actually report these things in? Because as you say, the anomaly, which seems a bit strange to me, is that there seems to be underreporting, definitely in the Wrexham side of things. I'd have expected the same levels of reporting across the patch. So I'm just wondering, is it lack of training, or is it just lack of time in being able to identify and report these things?
So in Wales, we have.
Okay. Is he froze?
Is fairly robust and fairly streamlined in that our operational crews know to report any concerns they have, and to always err on the side of caution via our control teams. Obviously, our dedicated staff that work in our prevention teams delivering safe and well checks also have that ability as well. So the process itself is fairly straightforward and is well embedded in the service. I would say, you know, that
Okay, can everyone hear me?
We can, but I think Anne froze for most of the
Yeah. So
apologies. My screen was still showing movement.
No, it's fine. We caught most of it. So I guess the report's very honest and it touches on the risks. So I guess it's good we know of the areas. So are we putting extra resource into the areas raised by Councillor Jones, the two authorities where we seem to have underreported? Are we putting a plan in specifically for them two areas? Because we want to have every area to be about the same if we took a benchmark. So do you feel we've got it's good that we've raised it? Are we putting a plan in to get it better?
Yeah, most definitely. Paul Kay, our head of fire safety, getting our safeguarding processes is one of his top priorities. He's recently reorganised his partnership managers function and focus, putting a dedicated safeguarding lead in, but also expanding that safeguarding awareness across all of the three areas of West, Central and East. So most definitely Paul is, as sort of highlighted, is looking at data and analysis to monitor trends and inform those strategic decisions. But it is very much an area of focus, and we do have a dedicated safeguarding committee within our governance structure.
Okay, talking about, and resources will be made available as required.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, okay, talking about. Councillor Hughes, please, talking about. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Just to say that in Gwynedd we've just received training about all sorts of harassment, sexual harassment, everything, child abuse, everything. And we have a card that I don't know if you can see, it's called Diogelu Safeguarding, which gives us a line that we can call if we come across any of these offences. So it's important. I'm glad it has been brought up. Thank you.
Oh, excellent, Jock. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Sharon, Councillor Sharon, please, Jock. Thank you.
Thank you. I noted from the report that Conway, pardon the pun, is a bit of a hotspot. And I just wondered if you could give us a steer. Are there certain areas or are there certain types of instances that are occurring in Conway? Obviously, I know you can't give specifics, but you know, is there a kind of a trend, really? That's the question I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, to Councillor Dolman. I don't have that data in detail to hand, but I will be more than happy to ask Paul and the team to do some further analysis, taking your feedback in relation to are there any trends in specific to that area.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I guess if certain types of housing, occupancy, etc., were causing issues, you'd share that with the relevant organisations, with the authority, because it's about prevention as well as picking up issues. So it's a good point well made. Okay, anyone else, please? Okay, Justin Evans, please. Jochen Bow.
Yeah, I suppose I just wanted to point out that these safeguard referrals, these are events where our crews or our home safety support workers are visiting properties and engaging with people where they're not already known to other services. So it may be in isolation, these are the first time that perhaps we have discovered that people are vulnerable and in need. We do receive quite a significant number of referrals for our staff to engage with our communities where they're already known from other services. So in terms of people who are already under the care of our partners.
Okay, Jochen, thank you for that. Okay, members, are we happy to move on? Okay, I'm going to go to the recommendation, and the recommendation that members note the service's commitment to expand internal training capacity to supporting staff to achieve higher safeguarding qualifications, to enhance safeguarding awareness in low referral areas like Wrexham and Ennismond through targeted outreach and training, for strengthen data collection and analysts to better monitor trends and inform strategic decisions, and lastly, implement functional safeguarding leads across operational areas to ensure consistent practice and leadership. So if we're all happy to take that recommendation, can we show, please? Okay, Jochen Vow, no one against, no abstentions. Jochen Vow, thank you for that. It's good to see that piece of work, really important, and nice to see the work which is going to happen and is happening. So Jochen Vow, thank you for that. Okay, item 9 is Treasury Management Report 24-25, and I believe our Treasurer, David, are you taking this, please?
I will, Chair. Diolch yn fawr.
Jochen Vow, thank you.
Yeah, good agenda this morning. Very interesting that the breadth of coverage of the committee now with things like cyber safeguarding, etc. It's much broader than the traditional finance audit aspects, and bringing it back in for some financial stuff here. So I'll present in Welsh if I may, Chair.
No, Jochen Vow, thank you.
Eitem 9 a pwrpas hwn di'r roed wybodaeth am y gweithgaredd rheoli trysorlus ar gyfer y flwyddyn nath orffan 31 Mawrth 25. Mae paragraff 1 yn Gymraeg yn deud 24 a fanna ar ddiwedd y paragraff 25 ydi o, a mae hwnna'n gywir yn y fersiwn Saesneg. Wedyn, wrth edrych ymlaen, ar i chi fel awdurdod ar 27 Ebrill gymeradwyo y strategaeth rheoli trysorlus ar gyfer y flwyddyn sydd wedi cychwyn, lly. A beth ni'n neud yma di edrych yn ôl ar yr actual am y flwyddyn dwytha, a gafodd y strategaeth am y flwyddyn 24-25 i gymeradwyo yn ôl ym mis Mawrth 24. Ac oherwydd bod yr awdurdod yn benthyg a buddsoddi symia sylweddol drwy'r flwyddyn ariannol, mae'n angenrheidiol i ni adrodd ar y perfformiad perthnasol, ond ar gyfer bore yma, dwi ddim am gyflwyno'n hir iawn. Dwi'n meddwl bod y cyfan da chi angen wybod rili yn paragraff 5 yn ystod y flwyddyn ar i'r benthyca a buddsoddiadau yr awdurdod aros o fewn terfynna ar ei cael ei osod yn wreiddiol yn y strategaeth blwyddyn y chwarter yn ôl, ac o'na ddim diffygion gan y banciau lle oedd yr awdurdod wedi gwneud bank deposits, oedd yna ddim defaults, a ar y tîm cyllid lwyddo i gael mwy o log ar yr balansa nag oedd yn ddisgwyl yn y gyllideb. Felly, gyda hynny, dwi ddim am mynd i'r cyd-destun ariannol a'r manylder neu orffan yn paragraff 6 efo'r un argymhelliad yma yna yn gofyn i chi nodi gweithgarwch am y flwyddyn. Ac mae'r cyfan sy'n dilyn yn bodloni gofynion statudol, ond wrth gwrs, swn i'n bodlon iawn i ateb cwestiwn ar unrhyw ran yno fo. Ond i bob pwrpas, da ni'n edrych yn ôl, bob dim yn iawn. Diolch yn fawr iawn i'r tîm cyllid am ei gwaith ar hyn. Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Okay, Jochen Bow, yes, the report reads very well. It's a good report, and as you say, we're looking back a bit. Any questions from members, please? I've just got one myself, but I'll see. So if I can just come in while members consider if they're asking. So obviously, part of this work we've done well is about borrowing, and some of that is it's been working well, and as we see, the graph seems to be going the right way with risk, but quite an unstable world. So any concerns moving forward? So I know this report is about the past, but I think it'd be worth touching on the risks, because the risk, it does mention risks in this report, although it's quite clear we don't need to have concerns. But moving forward, I think we have to acknowledge it's quite an unstable world out there. Over to you, David, talking about.
Yes, diolch, Cadeirydd. Yes, the risks in the global situation are significant, obviously, with everything happening in wars in Eastern Europe and wars in the Middle East. It's very concerning in terms of their impact on the economic scenario. Yeah, it's very difficult to predict how that might go, but at the moment, interest rates are predicted to be flat and even coming down slightly. So it's not impacting immediately on our borrowing capacity or borrowing costs. But obviously, if we do have an escalation in the Middle East, it could impact on inflation, and then that would possibly impact then on borrowing interest rates. But at the moment, it's not yet biting, and I wouldn't like to prophesize any further.
No. So it all seems to be going to plan, but we recognise there could be some bumps on the road ahead. But we're in a good place to deal with that, I would suggest, with the work we do and have done. So, okay, members. Okay, I think we just have to note the Treasury Management activities and potential indicators for the period 1st of April 2024 to March 31st, 2025. If you're all happy to note them, can you just show in the normal manner, please? No one against or abstentions. Okay, Jocko, thank you. And thank you, David, and thank officers for that report. Okay, item 10, Wildfire and Rescue Services Procurement Plan for 25 up to 30. Who's taking that for us? Is that Elgin?
It is, yeah.
Okay, Jocko, thank you, Elgin. Good to see you.
I'm pleased to present today the All Wales Fire and Rescue Service procurement for 2025, taking us up to 2030. This has been developed collaboratively across Wales and across the 3 fire service, and is to provide an unified framework, so how we procure goods and services over the next 5 years. It's designed to deliver efficiencies and value for money, ensure that we are compliant with any legislation, including the new Procurement Act and Social Partnership and Public Procurement Act, and also has a strong emphasis on sustainability and social value, which is in line with the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. It also supports the Welsh Government's ambition and locally our ambition to achieve net zero by 2030, embedding sustainability throughout the life cycle of procurement. Some of the key features include having a strategic procurement board to oversee and to show alignment, not only across Wales, but nationally as well across frameworks, a commitment to collaboration across all 3 of the services and wider public sector, And it also includes 12 strategic objectives covering areas such as supply engagement, e-procurement, risk management, and workforce development. So we'll monitor this strategy annually, and a KPI plan will be developed. Therefore, today I'm asking members to note and endorse the strategy, which will guide the procurement activity and ensure we deliver the best value, legal compliance, and positive outcomes across North Wales, but also Wales. Diolch.
Great, Giacomo, thanks for that. I've asked before, but I'll ask again in this meeting. You talked about community benefits as part of this process. So obviously we've spoke about the authority and members are really keen that we capture that data and it can be shared and we can see where we're doing well and not so well. So any thoughts on that? Are we moving forward with that in a better way? Do you think that's achievable? And then I'll go to members. Giacomo, thank you.
Yeah, yes, we're doing quite a lot of, I suppose, the background work at the minute to be able to capture the data. So we're classifying our suppliers in the system. So if the small, medium, large enterprises, where they're based. So we're doing that bit of like work now to be able to set up the dashboards and the KPIs moving forward. So they are to be confirmed and to be decided. But as soon as we have a draft version of them, I will circulate them and bring them back for members to be able to see them. That sort of, it can be an iterative process as well, moving forward, improving them as and when data gets better.
Okay, and I guess that could be part of any performance plan to show it in that in the future. I think is the ambition. That's great, Giacomo. Okay, Councillor Brian Aspley, please. Giacomo, thank you. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chair and everyone. Just a comment really around the question, and just appreciate the executive summary on page 72, 2 and 3. It's nice to see a bit of joint working and collaboration, which should surely be spread amongst other organisations. But that's only my view, but I think it's good to see. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, and it's a good point. And yeah, correct. It's working together. We talk about it, and it's clear that it's happened in this instance. So it's a point well made, Giacomo. Thank you. Okay, members, are we okay? Okay, Elgin, are you okay if I go to recommendation? Have you?
Yep. Okay. Thank you. It's to note and endorse the.
Okay. Okay, note and endorse the All Wales procurement plan for 25 up to 2030. If you can just note and show you support that in a normal manner, please. Giacomo, votes for. No one against and no abstentions. Giacomo, thank you for that. Okay, and we are now item 11, the budget setting, 26-27 verbal, and I guess that's yourself again, Elgin.
It is, and I'll do this one in Welsh.
Giacomo, thank you.
So heddiw ydyn ni'n edrych ar nifer o flynyddoedd ariannol, gyda'r eitem yma'n edrych ymlaen i blwyddyn ariannol 2026-27, ac gwaith sy'n yn dros y 6 mis nesaf yn mwyn gosod cyllideb teg ag realistig. Yn unol na blynyddoedd diwethaf, hoffwn sefydlu grŵp craffu ar gyllideb mwyn sicrhau goruchwyliaeth ariannol gan yr awdurdod. Ar gyfer y flwyddyn hon, rydym wedi adolygu'r broses o osod y gyllideb mwyn cyd-fynd ochr yn ochr â gwaith timau cynllunio trawsnewid a rheoli risg, gyda strwythur y grŵp yn dilyn fel canlynol. So mis Gorffennaf, da ni'n mynd i edrych ar y risgiau a sut mae hein yn llifo fewn i amcanion adrannol, a hefyd bydd diweddariad ar prosiect y ganolfan hyfforddi. Symud ymlaen i mis Awst, wedyn bydd y ffocws ar incwm, os di hynny gan bartneriaeth neu gan ardoll, cronfeydd wrth gefn, ac edrych ar y templedi newydd sydd wedi cael ei datblygu ar gyfer achosion busnes. Mis Medi wedyn byddwn yn edrych ar y gyllideb adrannol, gan adolygu gofynion revenue dros y 2 mlynedd nesaf a cynllun cyfalaf dros y 10 mlynedd nesaf. A wedyn fe hynny wedyn yn creu y fersiwn cyntaf o gyllideb drafft. Symud ymlaen i mis Hydref, byddwn yn adolygu'r ail doriad o'r gyllideb gyda mwy o bwyslais wedyn yn arbennig ar effeithlonrwydd ac arbedion. Wedyn mis Tachwedd, y nod yw cyflwyno cyllideb yn eich efanrwydd gan gynnwys bod pob achos busnes wedi cymeradwyo gan y grŵp. A wedyn fydd mis Rhagfyr cyfarfod yn cael ei amserlennu rhag onbodd unrhyw addasiadau. Y nod ydy sicrhau bod pob awdurdod yn cael ei gynrychioli gan aelod gyda dirprwy os nad yw aelod yn gallu mynychu. Felly byddwn yn ddiolchgar pe bai pob awdurdod yn gallu gadael ei lys o wybod drwy e-bost pwy fydd yn cynrychioli, a wedyn fydd dyddiadau ar gyfer pob sesiwn yn cael ei cadarnhau a bydd gwahoddiad calendar yn cael ei anfon atan yn fuan i mwyn sicrhau rhagalaeth. Diolch.
Okay, John, thanks for that. And I think we all recognise the important work that working group does, and it's a good partnership between officers and elected members, and it gives us a chance to be part and understand financially where we are and where we're going. And I think it's really good. So I'm glad it's carrying on. I don't think we need to take any questions on that, but I will if anyone's got any questions. I think that's quite clear. Okay, I'll move on.
Chair, just to
talking about go
on. Apologies, my Zoom is not allowing me to raise a hand this morning.
That's
so
okay, no problem. Then props.
To shout across.
Props.
Strange how these technologies work sometimes. But yeah, just I think as Authority Treasurer, I really appreciated the work of this group over the last couple of years, and it's got a really important role in not just considering and weighing up the different options, but also communicating with and the members on this group. Of course, have got an important role of communicating with members and officers back at their own individual local authority. So and we'll as officers continue to do that communication as well. I'm sure the chief will be talking to chief execs, and Helen and myself and I'll going to be talking to the treasurers and finance officers. But this group, it's worked well and improved the communication and consideration of the budget over recent years. So I definitely support it's being re-established and commencing work again under your chairmanship. Diolch.
And as you said, we had positive comments from Welsh Audit about it, and I think that scrutiny is good for the finances when money's tight, to be able to defend and understand our requests from the authorities of the funding is really good. So, and thanks for your work and officers, Jochen, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on. So that's excellent, Jochen. Item 12, I believe, draft statement of accounts 24-25, and I believe Helen, are you taking us through this, Jochen?
I am indeed. Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to continue the financial theme. And today on the agenda, we've got the draft statement of accounts for the 24-25 financial year. I'm going to start with the thanks because we are a relatively small team. And as you can see, the document runs to over 84 pages. It's very technical in nature. So I'd like to start by thanking the team, especially to Elgan and also Katie in the background, but to everybody that helps bring this document to where it is today. We do work to statutory deadlines. The statutory deadlines set out in the audit and account regulations are the production of the draft accounts by the 31st of May and the audit of those by the 31st of July. But more recently, during COVID, the Welsh Government relaxed those deadlines, and those deadlines are now end of June to the end of October for the final draft audited. That said, because we are a small team, and as you've heard today, we're already looking into the next financial year, it makes perfect sense to produce the accounts, have them audited, and effectively finalise the previous financial year. In terms of next steps now, the draft accounts have been signed by David as the Section 151 officer, and they're now currently with our colleagues in Audit Wales. They'll now be subject to audit, and again, that audit work will involve the finance team, and subject to that work concluding, we'll bring it back to the Fire Authority for final approval. It is a very, very technical document, and that's out of necessity. We have to comply with the CIPFA codes. It does run to 80 pages. That said, there's a narrative report, and that's set out on pages 2 to 18. And that really is to give the user of the accounts the understanding about who we are, what areas that we cover, that's geographical areas, what services we provide, our overall governance arrangements, our strategic aims. It references the CRMP, the implementation plan. And then if I could focus you on page 6, where it provides that data about what resources we have in terms of the location of our fire stations, also the fire appliances and the other vehicles that we have. And then it also gives a focus on activity. We've heard today about the safeguarding, and a lot of that activity is on our prevention and protection work as well. So it is very much around the response, but it's also not forgetting that we have a wider remit. Within the document, you'll also see a key focus on some of the areas that we're currently working through, one of which being our cultural improvement work. We've also got the emergency cover review, making sure that we have availability across our geographical area. Looking to the future in terms of building sustainable training facilities, and also looking into the much longer term in terms of that sustainability. Turning to the financial performance, starting with the revenue area, our surplus in year is a total of 293k. That includes the position following receipt of grants, and those grants were for such things as purchasing fireground radios, electric vehicles, and also decarbonisation works. Also additional funding that we received from the Welsh Government for support with pay. We also received funding in respect of our pension costs due to the increase in employer contributions, and also the movement to and from reserves. And we're very fortunate in the local authority accounting regime that we can actually build up reserves and use them when necessary. We've had an interesting and challenging year. In particular, we've experienced recruitment challenges. That's not only within our retained duty system, so there are colleagues for whom we're not their primary employer, but also into some of our specialist roles. Our corporate planning manager role is currently vacant, and they are difficult to recruit into. We've also had a higher than anticipated number of retirements in our operational cohorts, working on the whole time duty system, and therefore we've carried a number of vacancies during the year. We have been really, really fortunate to receive grant funding in year. I've touched on that already, but the Welsh Government towards the end of the year identified some capital monies that were available, and we took full advantage of those. That said, in respect of our capital, our overall budget was 5.7 million and our spend amounted to 3.1. That included the purchase of our land for the 10-acre site for our future training centre, but we've rolled over the projects that we weren't able to progress, and they totaled 2.6 million. In terms of some of the grant-funded projects that we were able to progress, we've purchased some electrical vehicles, including cars and vans. We've strengthened our electrical vehicle charging network across the state. We've also done some innovative work on the decarbonisation of Llandudno Fire Station. And within the next month or so, that is likely to be the first site for which we actually remove the gas supply. Lots of plans in that respect for future sites, but we progress those where we can actually seek grant funding. In addition to that, we had grant funding for fireground radios, and those fireground radios give us the ability to communicate through analogue and digital channels. And that was a key recommendation from the Grenfell inquiry, and that actually future-proofs us as well. One of the keynotes I'd like to draw your attention to is Note 8, and that can be located on page 36 of the accounts. And within that, we have usable reserves of 10.879 million. 8.9 of those have been earmarked and we earmarked reserves where we know at the balance sheet date there is likely to be a future liability, and it is prudent and appropriate to set aside money to discharge that liability in the future. In addition to that, we have general fund balances of 1.9 million, and those general fund balances are effectively our buffer in the event of spate conditions for which that we couldn't plan for. I'd like to touch on a number of the earmarked reserves that we have. Within the earmarked reserves, we have a pension reserve, and that recognises that we might have legal challenges, we might have a higher than anticipated number of ill health retirements, or that for whatever reason that the contributions due from the employer increased unexpectedly. So it is always prudent to maintain that pension reserve. Additionally, we have an interest reserve, and I know that during the Treasury management, you did note the risks associated with fluctuating interest rates, and to mitigate that, we do hold a reserve, and that reserve enables us in the short term to take measures to address any challenges that we face. Across the organisation, if you look at the risk register, the risk of contaminants, the health and safety risks to our operational firefighters is a key aspect of our day-to-day business. And so we have established a reserve, and that reserve is to ensure that they've got the correct kit, and that if there are developments in the sector, that we can address those in a very timely fashion. We maintain a transformational change reserve, which notes that for such items as the culture review, where we need to make changes, we can use that reserve. That will also be used for digital transformation, so making sure that we have the building blocks in place to use technology as it's available. Across our estate, it's really important that we not only ensure that we're looking at this sustainability, both in terms of the carbon footprint, but we also ensure that our facilities are fit for purpose. That might include any health and safety requirements that we have, but it will also include such things as equality, diversity and inclusivity. So it's absolutely brilliant that we're getting gender balance on our whole-time crews, or indeed our retained stations. But the important thing is to ensure that we have facilities that can cater for that. Our reliance on ICT has never been greater, and we've again spoken today about that cyber resilience, and therefore we maintain a reserve for any system improvements that might need to happen. A challenge across our sector is the emergency service network. We're currently on an old system, Airwave, and that over the next few years we will be moving to a new system. There will be capital costs associated with that and revenue implementation costs, and therefore it's prudent and wise to establish a reserve. At this moment in time, we don't know what those costs might be, but we know at some point they will happen. And then the last reserve I'd like to talk about is the capital programme. It is notoriously difficult to plan and deliver capital schemes in year, and therefore we have a capital reserve that effectively works as a buffer. What I'd also like to do is touch also on our financial position, which is our balance sheet. So on our balance sheet, we have fixed assets to the value of £61 million. They've increased year on year because we purchased the land. Against those assets, we're borrowing of 19 million, and that is something that we keep a very careful eye on. That said, we are going to in the future start looking at the training centre, and that will clearly be a significant increase in our borrowing. And then I'd also like to raise your attention to the pension liability. Our liability on the balance sheet is 208 million, and the reason for that is that the firefighter scheme is an unfunded scheme. So if the scheme was closed as at the balance sheet date, that is the best estimate of what we would have to pay to somebody to take over the liabilities. In terms of the next steps, the accounts are now with the Audit Wales colleagues, so that work will progress. And as part of that, we've had a request from Audit Wales. It's a standard request that we receive on an annual basis of inquiries from those charged with the governance. So they ask us a series of questions in a number of key areas, one of which is risk of fraud. The other is compliance with laws and regulations. And then the final one is related parties. So in respect of related parties, all members make a declaration, as do senior officers. And I'm really pleased to say that they were received in a very timely manner this year. So the response has been drafted by myself and David, signed off by David, and we're seeking endorsement of that response today. Chair, I'm happy to take any questions on the accounts that members may have. Thank you.
Okay, Giacomo, thanks for that, very thorough. I'll just start off with one myself, and then I'll take any others off members. So obviously, when you talk about the whole amount of finances in reserves, it sounds a large pot. And then you talked about a buffer, which I believe is 1.9. You raise a lot of risks, some of it out of our hands, pensions being one. So I guess the only question is the buffer enough, do you think? Just as a question, because obviously there's a risk with that. If you can respond to that, and I'll take any other questions. Giacomo.
I'm satisfied that we've had the capacity to build reserves in the areas that we know are a risk to us. I think what the usable reserves enable us to do is smooth the impact on the levy. It is, however, wholly dependent on our activity remaining broadly where it is. And as we look into the future, there are definitely risks to that being things like wildfires, flooding, and also technical challenges arising from such things as battery technology. So at the present time, I'm satisfied that we've had the capacity in the last few years to build those reserves, and we've also benefited from the grant funding from the Welsh Government and the additional payroll funding this year.
Giacomo, thanks for that response. It sounds like we've got everything in hand, and we can't manage everything, but we're in a good place. So Giacomo, thank you. Members, or I'll go to the recommendation. Okay.
But before you go to the recommendation, Chair, just some context. Members will recall the authority meeting 28th of April when Elgan presented the provisional out, and that was really that report from Elgan was more understandable management accounting formats presentation of the year, and Helen has capably presented the statements of accounts today, and that's in a standard financial accounting form in accordance with regulations and statutes, and really includes a lot of stuff which makes it very difficult to understand, but is in a standard format which makes it comparable across organisations, etc. It's got movements in things like asset values, which Helen mentioned, property, pensions particularly. There's big swings there because of how pensions are valued. It doesn't really make that much difference to our position, because we're going to be the pensions are going to be picked up as we go anyway, rather than anything coming to an end. So I was happy to certify these draft accounts. It is an 80-page document, but it still represents the tip of an iceberg, I think, with a mountain of work done under the surface. You know, for all the conscientious and professional work that's gone into this, I really want to thank Helen, Elgan, Katie and the finance team for all the work that's gone into it. It's quite an achievement for a relatively small team to get this out in a timely manner. And I do know that Audit Wales are already commenced on their work auditing, and hopefully they'll conclude in a satisfactory and timely manner as well over the summer, so that we can put the last year to bed and move forward and concentrate on next year's budget, really. So yeah, diolch yn fawr i'r team, and I really appreciate it, and I'm sure most of the members do as well.
Joke about, yeah, and it's a point well made, David. When you go through this agenda, all the other work they have to do, and being able to deliver the reports, the action plans, and deliver this on time is no mean feat. So I endorse your comments, and members do. So Giacomo, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go to the recommendations, if that's okay, everyone. Giacomo, thank you. So it is recommended that members note the unaudited revenue and capital outturn position. 2, note the unaudited balance sheet position. 3, note and endorse the movement to and from reserves. And lastly, endorse the response to Audit Wales in relation to matters of governance relevant to the statement of accounts. So if we note that, if we can show we're happy with that, please, members. Jock and Val, no one against and no abstentions. Okay, Jock and Val, thank you all. And I will move now on to item 13, annual governance statement for 24/25. Is this Anthony or Mike delivering this for us?
Diolch, Chair, it's myself
Jock
again.
and Val, thank you.
The purpose of this report is to present to members of the Audit Committee our draft annual governance statement as required by the Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2014, which has been submitted to Audit Wales by the deadline of the 31st of May. The Accounts and Audit Wales regulations require the authority to publish an annual governance statement to demonstrate that business is conducted in accordance with all relevant laws and regulations, public money is safeguarded and properly accounted for, and resources are used economically, efficiently, effectively to achieve agreed priorities which benefit local people. A draft version is required to be submitted to Audit Wales by no later than the 31st of May for their feedback. However, the annual governance statement will be returning to Audit Committee and full file authority in September and October of this year, respectively, following any Audit Wales feedback and amendments. So this year's draft annual governance statement is attached as an appendix to this report. And it is recommended that members agree to proposed actions and a slight amendment to the recommendation in your paper to note that the draft annual governance statement was submitted to Audit Wales prior to the 31st of May 2025 deadline. Talk about the end. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if Gareth, Gareth, if you can just confirm the wording we need to change to on this, if possible. I think it's clear, just so we get it right before we come to recommendation. I don't have to do that now. I'll come back to you on that. And any questions, please, members? I think it's clear. It's a clear document. It's just a recommendation is as said, but I think we just need an additional line, maybe, Gareth. Okay.
Sorry, Chair, what was it you were looking to cover in that additional recommendation?
I think we, sorry, Gareth, Anthony, you just confirm you just wanted to vary the recommendation, just so we're all clear. If you just talk us through it, and then if we're all clear, Gareth can make sure that happens. So we're happy, but there was a slight variation, Anthony, if I understood right.
It was, thank you, Chair. Yes, so it's just the second recommendation. It obviously says at the moment in your pack, it says authorised submission to Audit Wales prior to 31st of May. Obviously, in order to meet that deadline, we've had to submit that draft to Audit Wales. So the amended recommendation would be for members to note that the draft annual governance statement was submitted to Audit Wales prior to the 31st of May 2025 deadline. But as mentioned, you will be receiving this again in your meeting in September as the final version.
Okay, that makes sense. Gareth, Jocko, thank you. Okay, so we're okay with that. So can you just show you, if there's no questions, you can just show you're happy with that recommendation with the alteration in the normal manner. Jock and Val, no one against, no abstention. So we're all happy with that. Jock and Val, thank you. Okay, thanks for that, Anthony. Excellent. Thanks for your help today. And I will now move on to item 14, which is the audit plan 24/25. And I believe, and I hope, Carwyn Rees from Audit Wales will come in on this. Jock and Val, thank you.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I think I'll hand over to Kieran, the audit lead, for the audit to start to lead us through. We've also got Tim Buckle, who's now taken over the performance audit manager role for North Wales Fire and Rescue Service on the call as well. So hopefully between the three of us, we'll be able to answer any questions as well. So hand over to Kieran. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Jock and Val, thank you all for attending.
So Baradar Pau, good morning everyone. Following the conclusion of our audit planning work, work commenced on the audit at the start of last week. I just intend to give a brief overview of this year's audit plan. However, if there's anything you'd like me to explain further, please feel free to ask. So on page 7 sets out our materiality levels. So this is the level of misstatement which would cause our audit opinion to be altered. For the purposes of planning, materiality was set at 959k, which is based on 2% of gross expenditure. A lower level of 216k is set for the Firefighters Pension Fund. You'll also see that we've included our reporting threshold. Errors which do not exceed this threshold are considered trivial and will not be reported back to yourself through the ISO 260. There's 2 areas which are considered material by nature due to public interest. So these are senior officer remuneration, where materiality is set at 1k, and related party transactions, which are set at 10k. There's one significant financial statement risk, which is management override. Under audit legislation, this risk is present in all engagements due to the unpredictable way in which overrides could occur. We also have a few other areas of focus, which I'll just briefly touch on. So we've got the valuation of the pension fund net liability or surplus. This is a standard area of focus due to large values involved, as Helen's just touched on before. It's also a technically complex area and requires a large amount of estimation and uncertainty from actuaries. We also have valuation of land and buildings. The authority holds a significant number of assets and valuations are based on estimates. No revaluation exercise has been undertaken for this year, so we'll consider the work that's been undertaken to establish that balances are not materially misstated. We've also got senior officer remuneration. So even though there are no significant changes in senior officers for this year, remuneration paid to senior officers continues to be of high interest. And as mentioned before, we consider this material by nature. We've also got the implementation of IFRS 16, which is a change in the leases standard. This year is the first set of accounts that have been produced to reflect this change. It's a significant change in accounting treatment, and I know that Elgan's been updating the committee about the work that's been undertaken to identify such leases. From our side, we'll be undertaking work to verify the completeness of assets brought onto the balance sheet and their valuations. And then finally, we've got related party disclosures, which is another area that we view as material by nature. Page 12 sets out our proposed timetable for financial audit work planned. As touched on previously, work commenced at the start of last week. And then page 13 sets out the proposed timetable for our planned performance work. So I don't know if, Tim, you want to come in and just touch on this briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. I think just to bring to the committee's attention, and I'm sure you're aware already, there are 3 pieces of legislation that underpin our performance audit work. One is for the Auditor General to be satisfied that the authority has put in place what's called proper arrangements to secure economy, efficiency and effectiveness, which we commonly refer to as value for money. So the Auditor General has to be satisfied the authority has put in place proper arrangements to secure value for money. We also have to assess the extent to which the authority is applying the Sustainable Development Principle as part of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. And also for fire and rescue authorities, the Local Government Measure 2009 obviously still applies, the only bodies I believe now where that still applies. So we also have to look at whether or not the authority has arrangements to secure continuous improvement. And there are some specific things around that we have to do in terms of audit of your improvement plan and your performance report. The way we seek to discharge that is to largely combine those duties, so to be proportionate in our work and try and do that in a way that we can deliver all 3 responsibilities at once. We tend to focus then on one project that enables us to do all of that together. So you'll see in our work that whilst we have to do the specific audits of the improvement plan and performance report, the main focus of our performance audit work for this coming year is on the arrangements the authority has in place to secure financial sustainability. And we can look at that from the perspective of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and arrangements to secure value for money. So in terms of the timetabling of that work, we've at the moment indicated the autumn, but for our performance audit work, typically we'll engage with the authority to work out the best time and obviously in doing so consider the pressures on the authority and officers and so on as well. So we'll work together with the authority to identify a suitable time. I think that was all from the performance audit perspective. I don't know if Kieran or Carwyn, you want to come back in.
Yeah, so I've got a couple more things just to touch on from the plan. So page 16 outlines our estimated audit fee for this year, which is £78,166. That represents an increase of 1.7 from the prior year fee, 1.7%, I should say, from the prior year fee. Finally, then, page 19 outlines who the key contacts are within the audit team for this year. One item's noted whereby apprentices from Audit Wales and North Wales Fire were seconded to each other. However, neither individual will be included on the audit team for 24-25. So please let me know if you have any questions at all.
Okay. Okay, Jochen, ready for a so I'll bring Gareth in, and then I've just got one question myself. Jochen, Gareth, Councillor
Okay,
Gareth,
thank you. I just wanted to check my understanding under the performance audit. My understanding is from what you just said now, Tim, that it won't actually include the item that was in the previous report where we're actually doing a response to the our reactions and how we deal with domestic fires, which we're reporting on in March 26 back to us as an audit committee. So, that, as I understand it, there was some issues with training and up-to-date responses and actions that we take to domestic fires. So obviously it's an important piece of work that we need to keep an eye on, and I know that we're onto it and we're doing that, but there's no Audit Wales doesn't then actually give us an independent view of are we where we should be with that piece of work, and is the plan that we've put in place fit for purpose.
So if I understand that correctly, so there was issues raised, and moving forward, how would Audit Wales respond? Positively or negatively, but it's a good point, well made.
It's just a bit of reassurance for us as a committee that, I think it's a really important piece of work, and we need to take, we've obviously taken note of the feedback in that report that we all had, and we know that work's in place. But I'm just wondered if Audit Wales then gives us that added reassurance of is the plan fit for purpose, so to speak.
Okay, can someone respond to that, please?
I think, yeah, absolutely. In general terms, I mean, I think in terms of the main focus of our work, I outlined the specific project we'll undertake is around financial sustainability. There's a few aspects as well, which other work we do, it doesn't necessarily result in an output. So we do monitor implementation of our recommendations and response to them, and also, as well as that, an ongoing risk assessment process where our audit plans may change. For example, if things come to light where we think there are a change in the risks or a change in which risks become more significant, and if there's anything else that crops up essentially during the year, we may amend our plans as well. So it's not that we wouldn't necessarily look at anything else. It's that's the main project we'll undertake. But at the moment, that's the plan. But we still obviously maintain our risk assessment throughout the year anyway. So if things come to light that we may need to provide additional focus on, and I think the other point as well is not all of our work results in specific outputs. So we do look at other things through the year, and sometimes we may raise concerns formally if we believe that's necessary for our duties, but sometimes we may raise those informally if it's less significant in those terms. So I suppose that's a bit of a long answer, but I guess there's no specific intended output, but it's not that that's necessarily all we'll be looking at in terms of risks and monitoring going forward.
Yeah, so you tend to focus mainly on the financial implications. If that report says we need to spend significant amounts on training centres and things like that to be able to comply and address the issues brought up by that report, then would you look at those financial implications to the authority?
I think the key role for us probably in terms of our performance audit work is whether or not the authority has put in place arrangements to secure value for money. So it's not necessarily just about financials. And then the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and the 5 ways of working of the Sustainable Development Principle, we essentially try and look at those in the same way as value for money. So value for money over the longer term, collaboration and partnership work and integration and so on, and how that links to value for money. So it's not necessarily we would just look at the financials of something. It would be value for money in terms of inputs, in terms of how the money's used and what the outcomes are. So it would be that sort of emphasis for us, so particularly around value for money rather than just financial in that sense.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Okay, so just leading on from that then, so obviously we've got a plan. I think if everything goes well, that's fine. If there was issues, how would members of this committee understand that? So if it wasn't going well and Welsh audit had issues and weren't happy, how would elected members be part of that conversation if it did happen? Just so we all fully understand where we are talking about.
So I think, to be clear, our intention as it stands is to undertake one piece of substantive work, which would be the financial sustainability review. We will also report the findings of our audit of the improvement plan and performance review report, so that those will be outputs that will be available to the authority. If anything else came to light through our work that we felt we needed to make those aware of who are charged with governance, which would include members of the committee, then we would find a way to formally write or otherwise to the committee. So that's not usual, if you see what I mean, but sometimes we will, and those issues do come to light, and we will then make you aware. So I think just to provide that assurance, if anything does come to light, we would bring that to your attention.
I fully understand you would. I think it's worth raising because some organisations that hasn't happened and issues have gone unnoticed and became worse. So it's good to know that, and I think that for this meeting, it's worth hearing that from yourselves. So Jokoval, thank you. So that's good. Okay. Any other questions, please? Okay.
Just on that last one, sorry, would you like me to touch on from a financial audit side as well?
Yes, yeah, if you can, that'd be excellent, Jokoval, thank you.
Yeah, so following the conclusion of our audit, we'll issue a report which is called the ISA 260. So that'll outline any uncorrected, corrected misstatements, and we'll also include our audit opinion for this year. And then we've also got the ISA 265, which requires auditors to communicate in writing and on a timely basis any significant deficiencies in internal controls to yourselves, which will outline the deficiencies, potential effects, and clarify that the audit was not designed to express an opinion on the effectiveness of the control.
Thank you for that. Good report, nice and clear. Thank you for your responses. And I think we're all happy. No questions, no further. No, Jokoval, thank you. So the recommendation is that members recommend and note the work and the scope of work undertaken by Audit Wales. If you can just show you're happy to note that, Jokoval. Okay, that's 4. No one against and no abstentions. Jokoval, thank you all. And I believe, Lisa, officers, I believe that's the end of our meeting. Thank you all. It's been a long meeting. I think we've done some good work, and have a good day. Jokoval, thank you. Jokoval, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.